Welcome to the 20-minute pump. Today I'm going to show you how to use your Spectra in order to be able to maximize pumping. So we're going to get started and we're going to pump together. So I have my Spectra S1. This is the battery operated pump of Spectra. The S2 is pink and needs plugged into the wall. So to start, you're going to have all your tubing and everything, all your pump flanges ready for me. You're going to go ahead and put those on your breasts, and then we're going to start pumping together. So when you turn this pump on, it's going to start in the expression mode. So to start, you want to hit this wave button and start on the 70 cycle. Now you can hear my vacuum is very loud. Do not crank it all the way to the top if it hurts. You want to make sure that that suction level is comfortable. So we're going to start in the 70 cycle for 2 minutes. So we're going to pump, and I'm going to talk you through some other key pieces about pumping. So while your pump's on, while that's on your breast pumping, let's talk about the different pieces and parts. So this is the pump flange. This is your duckbill membrane. This is what actually generates your suction. So this is going to go underneath. These do wear out with time. So make sure that if you see this is warping at all, that if it's not generating as much suction, that you're replacing this piece routinely. If you're exclusively pumping, you'll want to replace this every 3, 4, 6 weeks, or whenever you see that it's starting to wear out. And if you're only pumping occasionally, these can last 3 to 6 months, depending on how often you're using them. So this is the white duckbill. You want to make sure that you're cleaning that thoroughly. Milk can get in there. Okay, this back piece is also going to help generate your suction. So this piece, make sure you're taking this off and washing it every single time, because milk can get in here and mold. So we're going to keep this on here on our spoke and wheel. These can also be replaced occasionally, not as often as the duckbill, but if you start to see that they're not generating good suction, replace that as well. Then your tubing is going to go on the back of this spindle. This tubing, you want to make sure that it's never getting wet, because if you get moisture on here, this can get sucked into your pump and it can do damage to your pump. Okay, now we're almost to the 2-minute mark, so get ready. We're going to switch our settings. All right, so this is going to go on the back and it's going to plug in. Okay, 2 minutes. So we're going to hit this wave button right here and switch to the expression mode. Now the 38 cycle is for when you're in colostrum phase or have a newborn. You really want to be having this at the 54 cycle when you have mature milk. Again, keep that vacuum low. Don't feel that you need to suck that super strong. You want to make sure that it feels comfortable and we're not causing more damage. Stronger is not better, okay? Now here's your pro tip. If you feel like you have to have that suction all the way to the top to see milk, that tells me your flange is too big. The flanges that come standard with these pumps have been standardized for over 100 years when pumps were created and invented. We're now finding that in the United States, most people need to go much smaller with their pump flange. So just because it came with the 24 and a 28 does not mean you should be pumping on that size. There's lots of different products to make it smaller. You want to go based off your nipple size, just by the diameter of your nipple. So this nipple, which is about the size I typically see in practice, is actually going to be too small for this pump flange. So lots of different products. This is a flange insert. It goes right into that pump to make it smaller. This is a soft silicone flange insert that will fit in any 24 or 25 millimeter pump flange. And there's also a firm silicone flange insert. So 2 different inserts. This one is softer than this one, but either of these can work really well when you're trying to shrink down that diameter. Another option is the Lactec Baby Motion flange. The entire flange is soft silicone, very nice and soft. And there is an adapter piece to make it adaptable to your Spectra. Okay, and the other one that I always carry with me is the Pump and Pal. This changes from the traditional trumpet flange to a tuba flange. This is great if you have a really elastic nipple. So if your nipple's hitting all the way at the back of that flange tunnel and swelling or looks double or triple in size from pumping, the Pump and Pal is a great option. Again, you would use the adapter piece to be able to connect it to. So we would use that to be able to connect to your Spectra pump. All right, now we are going to keep pumping on that expression mode for about 4 to 6 minutes. So this is going to help be moving your milk. Settings are a little individual. Normally, we want to alternate back and forth between the stimulate and the expression mode. 1 to 2 minutes on the 70 cycle, 4 to 6 minutes on the expression mode, usually at a 54 cycle with a comfortable vacuum. So right now we're in our first cycle. This is to trigger a letdown and release that milk. So we're going to be going back and forth between these settings several times during this pump session to really help us thoroughly empty our milk. So those are all of the pump pieces that we're used to. Again, make sure that you're using the correct size flange. The Lactec soft flanges can do a lot of really good massage of the breast. The Pump and Pal, again, is going to change the shape and angle to the breast. If you have more questions on that Flange Fit, consider taking my pumped class. You'll see that link right down there in the comment section. All right, so we are running at about 4 minutes into our expression mode. So we're going to go back into our stimulation mode. So get ready for it. We are going to go back into the 70 cycle. And again, keep that vacuum comfortable. Don't feel like you need to suck your brains out of your nipples when you're on these settings. It should feel like a nice gentle massage for you, okay? And if you're feeling like you have to crank it all the way to the top, most likely your flange size is too big. All right, let's look at this pump while we're here and look at some of the other settings. So we have the power on and off. This is a light that turns on that's very helpful for your night pumps. A couple different settings there. This holder in the back is to hold 1 bottle. So when you're combining your bottles of milk, you can put 1 bottle in here. Although I like to put snacks or a bottle of water in there as well. So don't feel like you have to just use it for its intended purpose of the Spectra bottle. Okay, so we're back into that expression or the stimulation mode. We're trying to trigger another letdown. So we're gonna let this cycle run for about 2 minutes this time around. So what happens is in your body, when your nipple is stimulated, it sends a nerve impulse to your brain that says, baby is here, release milk. So you have an oxytocin release, which is what we call a letdown release. That letdown triggers all those milk-making cells at the back to contract and squeeze and send milk out. So we're using that 70 cycle to stimulate the nipple to trigger your brain to release and let down your milk. When that letdown happens, we're then switching to the expression mode to actually pump and remove that milk, just like your baby would when they're at the breast. All right, we're coming back up onto that 2-minute mark. Get ready to change your setting back. So we're just trying to simulate the baby with your pump. Okay, are you ready? We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna change that over, go back to that 54 cycle. So we're gonna be pumping that milk. So we're trying to mimic the baby with the pump. So your baby's gonna do these light sucks, and then they're gonna move that milk, and then they're gonna go back to the light sucks and then move that milk. And sometimes your baby will go into what we call flutter sucking, where they're just doing a light little gentle pull. We can use the settings on the pump to try to mimic these actions so that your body releases and empties milk to the pump just as it would to your baby. It's not a perfect science. Everybody releases that oxytocin differently. So you need to figure out what works for your body. In general, it's 1 to 2 minutes of the stimulation mode, followed by anywhere from 4 to 6 minutes of the expression mode. Some parents find that they do better releasing milk when they stay on the 70 cycle longer. And some people find that they do better when they use the cycle at a lower speed or a faster speed. There's a lot of individuality to it. So these guidelines that I'm giving to you today work for many people, but you'll want to make sure that they work appropriately for you. So don't feel like you have to follow this exclusively, but I found that this works really well for most people. Again, if you have to have this suction all the way to the top, most likely you have the wrong size flange. So let's look at some of these other pieces and parts that we have. So there's lots of different sizes of flanges. So again, when we're talking flange fit, we want to make sure that it fits comfortably, only nipple in and out of that tunnel. It should feel comfortable. There should be no pinching, stabbing pain. It should not feel like it's rubbing, and it should functionally empty your milk. If you still feel like you have milk in the breast when you're done pumping, most likely that flange was too big, which swells the areola around your nipple, which does not let milk efficiently empty from the breast. So you'll still feel like you have milk up in there. I have also found that when we're fitting a flange size, that it often starts to feel worse right before you find that right size. In my experience in practice, most people need a 17, 18, or 19 millimeter flange, especially if you have a nipple that's about dime size or smaller. If you have a larger nipple, you will need a larger pump flange, and it really is your unique individual anatomy that we are basing this off of. All right, we're gonna check our time. We are halfway through your 20-minute pump. Doesn't that feel great to be about halfway through? Now, my other big recommendation is when you are pumping, do not watch your bottles. Sometimes our oxytocin, that hormone letdown release, can be inhibited if we're anxious. So if we're staring at those bottles, trying to watch them fill up, sometimes that can actually work in reverse for us. So if you need to, my best trick is take a baby sock and cover that bottle. Don't watch the bottles. The research says that if you're actually doing more meditation, listening to music, and being distracted by something else, like watching videos of your baby cry, it can actually help you let down and release more milk. All right, get ready because we're going to go back into another stimulation mode. So in about 20 more seconds, we're going to go back into our stimulation mode and see if we can trigger another letdown. 10 more seconds, get ready for it. All right, let's go ahead and switch back to that 70 cycle. We're gonna let this run for about a minute this time. Other helpful strategies when trying to empty and release more milk are to use heat and warmth on the breast. Using warm compresses, a heating pad, the little hot hands that you use in the winter time to keep your hands warm tucked into your bra. That heat can help trigger your body to think that your baby's there. So using warmth on your breast can be very helpful about 15 minutes prior to pumping and during pumping. Another wonderful strategy is to actually be using your hands while you pump. So when you have your pump flange on your breast, if you actually do some gentle compressions of that breast, squeezing around the areola, you can actually manually help squeeze some extra milk down out of your breast. All right, our stimulation mode is done. We did our full minute. Let's go back to that 54 cycle and start pumping again. You are almost there. So when a baby is feeding, they're going to use negative pressure in their mouth like a vacuum, like that suction on the pump. But their tongue is also going to compress the breast to help express milk. So babies use two actions, a vacuum in the mouth and compression on the breast with their tongue. A breast pump only uses one. It just uses that vacuum from the pump. So when you use your hands on the breast to also help empty milk, you're helping your body move milk more similarly to how the baby moves milk. So don't underestimate the power of using your hands to help compress milk while you're trying to empty those breasts. You do want to be cautious with that you're not being too forceful or vigorous when you're doing that. We don't want to cause any trauma to the breast. So some people find that before they pump, if they simply lean over and shake their breasts, if they use their fingers like a comb and gently go from back to front to help move that milk before pumping, that can also help empty and move more milk. Milk is made that the more you empty, the more you make. So the faster you pump, the sooner you pump, the more milk your body will actually make. It is always better to do shorter, more frequent pump sessions than to try to do a marathon pump less often. So usually if you're pumping in place of breastfeeding, you're pumping every 2 to 3 hours or whenever baby is getting a bottle, and pumping for about 15 to 20 minutes. If you're pumping after breastfeeding for a stash, then usually you're pumping within about 30 minutes of finishing the feeding, and you're pumping for about 10 to 15 minutes. If you're exclusively pumping, it is always better to do shorter, more frequent pump sessions to try to get the pump to mimic what your baby's doing. So what you would do is if you're pumping every 1, 2, or 3 hours, you're pumping anywhere from 10 to 20, 25 minutes. In general, if you're trying to increase milk supply, you would be pumping until you stop seeing milk flow. But you have to be careful with this. If you're in the early stages immediately after delivery, your body's making more milk than it needs to feed your baby. We know in the first 3 months, babies are only going to take about 60% of what's in the breast at any given feeding. So some people that do a lot of pumping really early on can actually pump themselves into an oversupply. So when it really depends on your goals, and I highly recommend taking my pumped class for more information on how long to pump, when to pump, your own breast storage capacity, and the magic number, the number of pumps you need to do in 24 hours to increase, maintain, or decrease your supply. Now get ready, we're gonna do one more stimulation mode. We're gonna do a short one. So we're gonna go back and we're gonna do 1 more minute of that stimulation mode. So we are in our 70 cycle. One more time. You are almost there. We just have 3.5 minutes left in this 20-minute pump session. This is going really fast. I hope it's going fast for you, as fast for you as it is for me, okay? So we are just gonna do just a little bit more pumping. You're almost there in the stimulation mode. Use your hands. We're gonna go back to front. Think of it like squeezing toothpaste down a toothpaste tube while you're in that stimulation mode. You are almost there. You've got this, okay? I believe in you, and I believe you're gonna be able to pump that milk. All right, we're almost done with this last stimulation phase. Let's give it about 10 more seconds. All right, let's go back one more time into that expression mode. All right, you are on the 54 cycle. Make sure you have that vacuum comfortable. At this stage in the pump, you might want a little extra vacuum, or you might want a little less vacuum. You need to feel what feels comfortable for your unique breast, your individual body. Again, using those hands is going to help compress out more milk. So hand compression, we call this hands-on pumping. All right, you are doing a great job. You only have 2 more minutes in this pump session. So if you have any questions about pumping, about your Flange Fit, about how to use the settings on your unique pump, don't hesitate to reach out. You can email me to lalactation@gmail.com. I am also available for virtual and in-person flange fittings. I'm located in Los Angeles, California, and have done virtual consultations with patients all around the world. You can schedule that through lalactation.com. I hope you're having a great time with this pump session. You are almost there. You only have 1.5 minutes left. The most important factor that I've seen for making more milk when pumping is to be alternating those pump settings. That can be done on most pumps, where you're doing the quick stimulation phase followed by the slower, longer pull. You want to be alternating that several times during your pump session. And honestly, the most important piece for getting a comfortable pump and emptying your milk efficiently is to make sure that you're having the right size flange. In my pumped course, I also include a paper ruler for you to be able to measure your nipples to see where you would start. So that's a good estimation of which flange size to start with. It is like trying to find the right size bra. There is a lot of variability to it. when somebody measures for a 30-60, a 30-60 in Victoria's Secret is not a 30-60 of REA or of a Target brand bra. There is a lot of variability, and we're trying to find the most comfortable fit for you and your unique breast anatomy. All right, we are almost to the end. You are almost there. We have just about 20 seconds left in this pump session. Thank you so much for coming and joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial of how to pump with your Spectra pump and use the settings with me. Join me again next time where we're going to do another 20-minute pump with a different topic. And there you are. There is your 20-minute pump. Have a great day. Happy pumping.